Keep moving. Do not stop. Head toward the north exits. The megaphone feedback tore through the air, screeching over the roar of thousands of panicked commuters and bouncing off the vaulted glass ceiling above us. And I couldn't see the exits. I couldn't even see my own shoes. I was just trapped in it, packed shoulder to shoulder in a suffocating crush of winter coats, briefcases, and bodies that were all starting to realize something was very, very wrong. A hard plastic riot shield slammed into my lower back. I said, "Keep moving, man! Walk!" The cop behind me was young. His name tag read Miller, and he was sweating straight through the collar of his gear, eyes wide, unfocused, like he was trying to follow orders faster than his brain could keep up. And I could feel it in the way he shoved me, not angry, not cruel, just terrified, just doing what he was told because someone above him was shouting louder. Behind us, it was a solid wall of them, black armor, shields, helmets, pushing the entire crowd out of the south concourse and into the central atrium like we were something that needed to be cleared out fast. The emergency klaxons were deafening, a constant skull-rattling wail, red strobes flashing off the white marble pillars, turning everything into this pulsing, disorienting nightmare where nothing felt stable anymore. People were shouting different things all around me. Bomb, shooter, gas leak, but nobody actually knew anything. All we knew was the police believed something was about to happen, and whatever it was, they were desperate to get us out. "Go, go, run!" The commander's voice blasted down from the second-floor balcony through a bullhorn, his arms waving frantically toward the glass doors. "Clear the atrium!" And then the pressure from behind hit a breaking point. The entire crowd surged forward like something had snapped, like a dam had burst. And suddenly people weren't walking anymore. They were jogging, then running, then sprinting as the space in the atrium opened up and the bodies at the front broke free of the crush. About 30 people, maybe more, just bolted. I was maybe 50 feet behind them when it happened. They were running full speed, desperate to get out. And then, right in the center of the atrium, they hit something that wasn't there. No sound, no flash, no warning. 1 second, a man in a gray trench coat was sprinting toward the doors. The next second, his left leg kept going, but everything else didn't. His torso and right leg sheared cleanly away and dropped to the marble floor. It happened to all of them. All 30 people in the front wave just came apart. A teenager with a skateboard split into 4 perfect sections: head, chest, hips, legs, sliding away from each other like someone had cut him into clean, geometric pieces and just let gravity finish the job. For a second, just a second, there was no blood. The cuts were too fast, too clean, too wrong. I don't know how to explain it. I'm not a scientist. I don't know what the hell that was. But it didn't look like anything real. It didn't look like a trap or a weapon. It just looked like reality had stopped behaving properly. Like they were all stacked pieces of something, and something invisible had just kicked the bottom out. Then the heartbeats caught up, and all at once, everything came loose. Blood erupted out of those bodies in a single, violent wave, flooding the white marble floor so fast it looked like it had been poured there. The screaming that followed didn't sound human. The entire crowd slammed to a stop, recoiling in pure instinct. People stumbling backward, slipping, crashing into each other as that wave of blood spread across the floor toward us. Beside me, a woman in green hospital scrubs, her badge read Sarah, grabbed my arm so hard her nails cut through my jacket, and she was shaking, staring at what used to be people. But the officers behind us couldn't see any of it. They were too far back, blocked by the crowd, still pushing, still forcing us forward. "Do not stop! Keep running!" the commander's voice roared from above. "Move!" Miller slammed his shield into me again, harder this time. Battens cracked somewhere behind us. "Stop! People are dead! Stop pushing!" I screamed, along with dozens, hundreds of others. But it didn't matter. The alarms drowned us out. The panic drowned us out. Everything drowned us out. The pressure from behind forced another group out into the open space. They stumbled forward, trying to catch their balance, moving too fast because they had no choice. And the moment they hit a jog, they came apart. A businessman's jaw slid clean off his face. His arm dropped beside him with a wet, heavy sound. There was no wire, no visible trap, nothing to avoid. The space itself was doing it. And the second that realization started to spread, the crowd broke. People surged backward all at once, a tidal wave of terror slamming into the unyielding wall of riot shields behind us. And suddenly, it didn't matter which direction you went. Forward meant death. But the police weren't letting us go back. The atrium locked itself into something worse than chaos. It wasn't movement anymore. It was a stalemate. The front of the crowd was pressed up against an invisible wall of death, people frozen in place, too terrified to take even a single step forward, while the back of the crowd kept getting hammered by police who thought we were just hesitating, just panicking, just refusing to move. "Move up! Move up!" Miller's voice cracked right behind me as he slammed his shield forward again, and this time it hit a pregnant woman hard enough that she cried out, her body folding for a second, before the pressure forced her upright again. I was stuck right in the middle of it, pinned between bodies, crushed against Sarah, the nurse, her grip still locked on my arm, her breathing fast and shallow, and the smell in the air had changed now, thick and metallic, like breathing through a mouthful of pennies. Up on the balcony, the commander stared down at the carnage. He couldn't process what he was seeing, so he forced it into something he understood. "Command, they're hitting a wire trap!" he shouted into his radio, his voice booming across the atrium. "We've got a microfilament snare or a directed explosive. Push them to the east corridor. Get them around the center." It made sense. It was exactly what it looked like, and it was completely wrong. "Move right! Go right!" Miller shouted, shoving us sideways. The entire mass shifted with him, bodies grinding against each other as the crowd tried to obey, tried to survive, tried to follow the only instructions we had. Near the front, someone dropped a heavy rolling suitcase. It hit the floor, landed on its wheels, and shot forward across the smooth marble, picking up speed as it rolled straight into the open center of the atrium. For a second, nothing happened. Then, halfway across, the suitcase split, not cracked, not shattered, split cleanly into 3 perfect rings. The clothes inside burst upward into the air, and before they could even fall, they tore apart into thin strips, fluttering down like shredded fabric. Sarah's grip tightened on my arm. "It's not just people," I whispered, more to myself than to her. It was everything. A man slipped on the blood near the front, his legs kicking out from under him. He went down hard, and the guy next to him reacted without thinking, lunging forward to grab him, too fast. His arm snapped forward, and his hand separated at the wrist, as if it had been cut clean off mid-motion. He froze, staring at it, not understanding. Then he screamed, and when he staggered backward, panicking, moving too fast again, his head slid off his shoulders. The man on the floor saw it happen. He didn't stand up. He didn't try to help. He just scrambled, hands and knees slapping against the marble as he tried to crawl away as fast as he could. Too fast. His arms came apart first, then his legs. To my left, a transit worker in a bright orange vest, a guy named Marcus, was trying to do something. Anything. He spotted the glass doors leading to the east corridor locked tight. He grabbed one of those heavy brass stanchions, the kind used for crowd lines, and pulled it free, lifting it over his shoulder. He swung it like a bat. Hard. And in the middle of that swing, both his forearms detached cleanly from his body. The pole dropped with a loud metallic clang. Marcus collapsed where he stood. I watched it all. The suitcase, the crawling, the swing, all of it. And then I looked back at the center of the room. There was a man standing there now. Middle-aged, suit, briefcase lying in the blood behind him. He had fallen earlier, right into the middle of the bodies. But he wasn't running. He wasn't scrambling. He was barely moving at all. Slow, painfully slow. He pushed himself up, inch by inch, like every movement was being dragged through something thick. Then he took a step backward. Nothing happened. He stayed whole. He took another step. Still nothing. He was standing right in the middle of it, in the same place where dozens of people had been torn apart seconds earlier, and he was completely intact. Sarah's voice came out in a whisper. Why isn't he cut? She was staring at him like she couldn't believe it. He's right in the middle of it. Someone else saw him too. A woman near the front turned, saw him walking, saw that he was alive, and something in her snapped. She thought it was over. She spun around and ran, 2 steps. On the third, her face came off. It dropped straight to the floor like something that had been peeled away. My breath caught in my throat. That was it. It wasn't where you were. It wasn't what you touched. It was how fast you moved. It's the speed, I shouted, forcing the words out as loud as I could. If you run, you die. You have to move slow, slower than a walk. Sarah looked at me, then back at the man, then back at me again, and I could see it clicking for her. But the sound in that room was too much. Too many people. Too much panic. Up on the balcony, the commander saw something completely different. He saw a crowd refusing to evacuate. He saw people frozen in a building he believed was wired to explode. They're paralyzed, he shouted into his radio. They're sitting ducks for a secondary device. Deploy flashbangs. Break the jam. Force them through the doors. It was the right call. In any normal situation, it would have saved lives. Here, it was going to kill everyone. No, I screamed, throwing my hands up instinctively, then catching myself, forcing them to slow down mid-motion. No, don't scare them. Do not use flashbangs. Nobody heard me, or if they did, it didn't matter. The officers on the ground were already moving, unclipping the canisters from their vests. Flashbangs out! Cover your ears! 3 metal cylinders arced over the crowd, spinning through the air, then clattering onto the marble floor. For a split second, everything held. Then they went off. The light was blinding. The sound hit like a physical force, slamming into my chest and rattling through my bones. Control didn't just slip. It collapsed completely. The flashbangs did exactly what they were built to do, and in any normal situation, they would have saved lives. They would have broken the freeze, forced movement, cleared the exit routes, but here they did something else entirely. They triggered panic. Real panic. The kind that doesn't think, doesn't process, doesn't listen. The crowd shattered. Thousands of people moved at once, all of them trying to get away from the blast, from the noise, from the shock, sprinting in every direction with no control, no coordination, just pure instinct driving them forward. And the moment they did, the air turned on them. I was thrown off my feet as the surge hit, bodies slamming into me from every angle, and instead of fighting it, instead of trying to stand, I forced myself down, going completely limp as I hit the floor, dragging a heavy suitcase with me and letting it fall across my legs, pinning me in place. Sarah dropped beside me, pushed down by the same wave, curling in on herself, hands locked over her ears, eyes squeezed shut so tight I thought she might pass out. We couldn't move, so we lived. All around us, people ran, and all around us, people came apart. The sound, it wasn't just screaming anymore. It was tearing, wet, fast, constant. A man right in front of me started coughing, choking on the smoke from the flashbang, and when his body jerked forward with the force of it, his throat opened up, clean and sudden, like something had sliced straight through him mid-breath. A woman stumbled past him, arms flailing wildly as she tried to keep her balance, and in that frantic motion, her fingers separated from her hands, dropping to the floor one by one as she kept moving without even realizing what she had lost. Blood filled the air, not splashes, not drops, a mist. A fine, drifting red cloud that coated the glass walls, the billboards, the floor, everything turning slick and shining under the flashing lights. The screaming changed. It stretched out into something continuous, something unbearable. A single, endless sound of pain and confusion and terror that didn't stop, didn't break, didn't give you room to think. Miller got hit by the surge. Hard. The crowd drove him forward, straight into the open center of the atrium, and for a second he hesitated, just long enough for training to take over. He reached for his radio. Too fast, his arm came off at the elbow. Clean. Like it had never been attached properly in the first place. He dropped to his knees, staring at it, at the empty space where his forearm should have been, his brain refusing to catch up with what had just happened. Everything about him changed in that moment. The shouting, the authority, the control, it all vanished. What was left was just a kid, a terrified, bleeding kid sobbing on the marble floor. "Officer, don't move!" I shouted from where I was pinned. "Hold still! Don't move!" He froze, just like that. Clutching his shoulder, shaking, trying not to breathe too hard, trying not to move at all. Up on the balcony, the commander saw it. He saw his officers going down. He saw civilians being torn apart in front of him. And finally, the panic reached him too. "We're taking mass casualties!" he yelled into his radio, his voice breaking now. "Get the Bearcat in here! Provide mobile cover for the civilians!" From the south entrance, glass exploded inward. The sound cracked through the atrium, loud enough to cut through the screaming, and a second later, the vehicle came through it. A Bearcat. Massive, armored, built to take bullets, built to take explosions. It crashed through the doors with its siren blaring, lights strobing so hard they turned everything into fragments of motion. And it didn't slow down. It didn't hesitate. It just drove straight into the concourse like it was coming to pull people out. Like it could fix this. Like this was something you could drive through. It was moving fast. Not racing, not reckless. Just normal speed for a rescue push. 20 miles per hour, that was enough. It rolled forward into the center of the atrium, and the moment it crossed into that space, it started to come apart. Not denting, not breaking, slicing, the front grille flattened first, splitting into thin metal strips like something had shaved it down layer by layer, and then the engine block went. Heavy steel tearing into clean sections. The massive tires separating into thick rubber rings that rolled for half a second before collapsing. It didn't stop. It kept moving while it destroyed itself. The entire vehicle folded inward, tearing itself into pieces as it drove, metal screaming against metal, sparks bursting out in bright showers as everything inside it ground itself down into fragments. The windshield vanished. The officers inside didn't even have time to react. They were there 1 second, gone the next. What was left of the vehicle kept pushing forward on its own momentum, dragging a collapsing mass of shredded steel across the floor. And then that mass broke apart too. Chunks of metal tore loose and flew outward, spinning through the air in every direction. One of them, a thick steel plate, came straight at a group of people crouched near the wall. I saw it coming. There was no way they could move fast enough to avoid it. I braced, expecting impact. But the moment it crossed the center of the room, something changed. The plate was spinning too fast. And just like everything else that moved too fast, it didn't stay whole. It came apart mid-air. The solid steel dissolved into a cloud of fine gray dust, spreading outward and then drifting down slowly, settling over us like ash, like snow. The air wasn't just cutting things, it was stripping speed out of them. The Bearcat, the last thing the police had thrown at this, the last attempt to control it, to contain it, to understand it, had turned into nothing. And that was it. That was the moment the police line broke. Officers dropped their shields. Some turned and ran without looking back. Others just stood there for a second too long, staring at what was left in the center of the room, before backing away, step by slow step, until they were out. No commands, no formation, no control, just people trying to get away. The rest of us stopped moving. Not because we were told to, because we understood. Running meant death. That was it. That was the rule. And once everyone understood that, everything changed. The screaming faded. Not all at once, but enough. Enough for something else to take its place. Silence. Not complete silence. The alarms were still going. People were still dying. But the movement stopped. And without movement, the room felt different. Heavier, thicker, like the air itself was pressing down on us. I pushed the suitcase off my legs, slowly, carefully, making sure every movement stayed controlled, stayed deliberate, and then I started to stand. It took time. Too much time. Every instinct I had was screaming at me to get up, to run, to get out, but I forced it down, forced my body to move like I was underwater, slow and measured and careful. From my knees to my feet took what felt like forever. 20 seconds, maybe more. By the time I was standing, my legs were shaking, not from injury, from restraint. There were maybe 300 of us left, out of 4,000. We stood there, frozen in place, surrounded by what was left of everyone else. The floor slick with blood, bodies reduced to pieces that didn't even look human anymore. An inch deep. Maybe more. And nobody moved. Up on the balcony, the commander just stood there, staring down at what was left of the atrium, his face completely drained of color, his hands shaking so badly the radio in his grip rattled against itself before he finally forced himself to speak. "Deploy. Deploy tear gas," he stammered, his voice breaking over the system. "Flush them out. Clear the hazard zone." For a second, I couldn't breathe. Tear gas. Not here. Not in this room. Because tear gas doesn't just make people move. It forces movement. Violent movement. Coughing that jerks your entire body forward without warning, hands flying up to your face, people stumbling, choking, thrashing, trying to breathe, trying to see, trying to get away from something they can't even think through. If they fired gas into this space, nobody would be able to control themselves. Nobody would be able to stay slow. Every single person left alive would tear themselves apart. "No!" I shouted, forcing the sound out without moving anything else, locking my body in place and pushing the words forward with everything I had. "Listen to me. Do not run. Do not flinch. Move like you're stuck in mud." The commander snapped. Something in him finally broke. He raised his rifle and aimed it straight down at the crowd, not at anyone specific, just at us, at the mass of people that weren't obeying him, that weren't doing what they were supposed to do. "Get down on the ground," he screamed, his voice raw, unsteady, completely out of control. "Everyone on the floor right now. We are deploying gas. If you drop fast, you die," I shouted back, louder this time, desperate to cut through everything else. "Stay standing. Look at the floor." He didn't hesitate. He pulled the trigger. The muzzle flash lit up the balcony for a split second, and the crack of the rifle cut through the atrium, sharp and violent. The bullet left the barrel at full speed. It crossed maybe 10 feet of open air, and then it hit the room. There was no impact, no ricochet, no sound. It just came apart. The round fragmented instantly, breaking down into something so fine it looked like dust, a soft gray cloud drifting downward where a bullet should have been. The commander saw it, really saw it. Not the aftermath, not the bodies, but the rule. His rifle lowered slowly, like his arms had forgotten what to do with it. He didn't speak. He didn't give another order. He just stood there, staring at the dust hanging in the air. I didn't wait. I looked down at Sarah, still curled tight on the floor beside me, hands locked over her ears, frozen in place. I reached out to her. The distance between us couldn't have been more than 2 feet, but it took everything I had to close it. My hand moving forward inch by inch, slow enough that it felt unnatural, like I was forcing my own body to forget how to move the way it was built to move. 10 seconds, maybe more. "Take my hand," I said quietly. "Hold it tight. Don't jerk. When you stand, you do it slow." Her hand came up to meet mine, shaking so badly I thought for a second that the movement alone might be enough to cut her. But her fingers found mine, locked in, and she held on like it was the only thing keeping her anchored to the world. She pulled herself up, slow, painfully slow, every inch deliberate. And she made it. "Okay," I said, louder now, letting my voice carry across what was left of the room. "Everyone listen, link arms, hold on to the person next to you. We walk together, 1 step every 5 seconds. If someone moves too fast, you pull them back. Do not let go." For a moment, nobody moved. Then one person reached out, then another. Hands found sleeves, wrists, forearms, anything solid enough to hold on to, until a chain started to form, fragile at first, then stronger, people locking themselves together out of pure necessity. 300 of us, maybe less, standing in the middle of that place, surrounded by what used to be thousands. I looked at the doors. They felt impossibly far away. 150 feet might as well have been miles. "Right foot," I said. I lifted my leg, slow enough that I could feel every muscle fighting me, every instinct screaming to move faster, to get it over with, to run. I forced it down, placed it carefully in the blood. Left foot. We moved. Not walking. Not really. Something slower than that. Something controlled. Something unnatural. It was the hardest thing I've ever had to do. My entire body was wired to escape, adrenaline hitting me in waves, telling me to run, to get out, to survive. And I had to fight every bit of it. Had to hold myself back with everything I had. Because the moment I gave in, even a little, it would be over. It felt like holding your hand in a flame and refusing to pull it away. Every second stretched out. Every movement mattered. As we reached the center of the atrium, the air changed. You could feel it. It wasn't just in your head. It got heavier, thicker, like we were moving through something that resisted us. There was a low hum, deep enough that I could feel it in my teeth, a vibration that ran through my jaw and down my spine, and every small motion sent a sharp, prickling sensation across my skin, like static building up with every inch we moved. It felt like the room was watching us, testing us, waiting for one mistake, one sudden movement, one break in control. About halfway across, everything almost fell apart. You could feel it building before it happened. That pressure running through the chain, the strain of holding control for too long, the weight of what we were walking through finally catching up with people. Right in the middle of the line, a young guy in a college hoodie started to lose it. His breathing sped up, sharp and uneven, his eyes darting down at the floor, at the bodies, at the pieces of people we were stepping through, and you could see the panic taking over, pushing everything else out. "I can't," he choked, his voice breaking as his chest heaved. "I can't do this. It burns. It feels like it's burning." "Breathe slow," Sarah snapped from a few people down the line, her voice tight but controlled. "Do not move." But he wasn't hearing her anymore. Panic doesn't listen. It takes over. His arm jerked hard as he tried to pull free from the woman holding him, trying to rip himself out of the chain so he could run, so he could get away from all of it. Too fast. The movement was enough. A deep cut opened across his bicep instantly, slicing through the fabric of his hoodie and into the muscle underneath like something invisible had just passed straight through him. He screamed. The pain only made it worse. He pulled harder. If he broke free, he would run. If he ran, he would come apart. And when he went, he would take half the line with him. Sarah moved. Not fast. Never fast. But heavy. Deliberate. She leaned her full weight backward, anchoring herself like she was trying to root herself into the floor, her arm locking in place so she wouldn't be pulled forward. With her free hand, she grabbed the back of his hoodie and held on. "Look at me," she shouted, her voice cutting clean through the noise, sharp and commanding in a way nothing else had been. "Do not run. Drag your feet. If you run, you die." He was sobbing now, blood running down his arm, his entire body shaking as he fought himself, fighting the instinct to bolt, to move, to do anything except stay where he was. But Sarah held him just enough, slow enough. The tension in the line stretched, tightened, threatened to snap. And then somehow, it didn't. The chain held, the movement stabilized. "Keep going," I said under my breath, forcing the words out through clenched teeth, sweat running into my eyes. "We're almost there." No one argued. No one questioned it. They just moved. Up on the balcony, the police had stopped. No more commands. No more attempts to control it. The commander just stood there, staring down at us, watching 300 people covered in blood, moving together in slow motion through what looked like a graveyard. We reached the doors. The glass was shattered. The frames were bent. The automatic sensors had been destroyed when the truck came through. The exits were just open now, waiting. I moved my hand forward, slow, inches at a time, forcing every bit of motion to stay controlled, to stay under whatever limit this place had set, until my fingers finally crossed the threshold of the doors. The moment they did, I felt it. The air changed, cool, normal, The pressure lifted, the hum disappeared, and for the first time since this started, nothing pushed back. I took a step, careful, out onto the concrete, then another, then one more. And when nothing happened, when my body stayed whole, when the world didn't come apart around me, I let go of Sarah's hand. At first, just a slow jog, testing it, then faster, a full sprint, and nothing happened. No tearing, no resistance, no invisible force waiting to cut me down. We were out. Behind me, the chain broke apart as people poured through the doors, collapsing onto the pavement, crying, vomiting, staring down at their own hands like they expected them to fall apart at any second. Sarah dropped to her knees a few feet away, breathing hard, pressing her hands against the young guy's arm, trying to slow the bleeding, her voice shaking but steady enough to keep him focused. Sirens surrounded us. Police cruisers lined the street, lights flashing in every direction, turning the night into a storm of red and blue, and paramedics rushed in, dropping beside us, wrapping people in blankets, shining lights into our eyes, asking questions we couldn't answer. Chemical weapon. Terrorists. What did you see? What happened? I didn't say anything. I turned around, and I looked back inside. Through the shattered glass, the atrium stretched out in front of me. Red. Wall to wall. Bodies reduced to pieces that didn't even look real anymore, spread across the marble like something the world itself had rejected. Too many to count. Too many to understand. The commander came down the stairs, slowly, not rushing, not shouting, just walking, like he didn't trust his own legs anymore. He reached the edge of the doors and stopped. He didn't step outside. He just stood there, looking at us, at the people sitting on the pavement, breathing, alive. And then he looked down at his boots, at the blood covering them. He raised his radio. For a second, it looked like he didn't know what to say. Then finally he spoke. "Command," he said, his voice hollow, stripped of everything it had been before. "The situation is contained. Do not send anyone inside. Do not move, just wait." He lowered the radio. Then he looked at me. And in that moment, neither of us needed to say anything. There were no terrorists, no bomb, nothing we could fight. The place itself had done it. And the only reason it had happened the way it did was because we were told to move. If you were in that room, would you have trusted the police or your own eyes? Because the scariest part wasn't what was happening in that atrium. It was how long it took us to realize we were being told to do the wrong thing. We're trained to follow instructions in a crisis. Stay calm, move fast, get out. But what happens when the instructions are the thing that gets you killed? I keep thinking about that, and I don't know if I'd make the right choice a second time.